A regional force fighting jihadists in Mozambique says it's opened an investigation over a video apparently showing some of the troops burning bodies of dead people. The clip circulating on social media shows some soldiers hurling a corpse over a pile of burning rubble where at least another body is already thrown. A soldier pours a liquid over the body as others, including one person seemingly wearing a South African military uniform, watch and film the scene on their phones. Details of what happened are not immediately clear. The SANDF has issued a statement of its own saying an investigation is now underway. What we're hearing now is that they've noted this video clip circulating online showing members apparently wearing SADC member states' military uniforms and burning the bodies of deceased people. Now, a statement says that the force's commander has convened, I should say, a board of inquiry to thoroughly investigate the matter, but is unable to confirm that the incident occurred within the area of responsibility. Let's talk more about this with terrorism expert and also an expert that we've been speaking to about the conflict in northern Mozambique, Jasmine Opperman. Jasmine, good to speak to you. Security analyst is the title. How disturbing would the involvement of SA troops in what happened in Mozambique be if indeed this video is authenticated?
Good evening, Tembekili, and good evening to your viewers. This is quite disturbing. The video seems to be authentic. We do know it comes from the end of November when a combined summon force, but included South Africans, Tanzanians and Botswana soldiers and special force members, attacked the Abu Faisal insurgent base and afterwards claimed that they've killed 30 insurgents. So the incident and the link to the video is, at this point in time, close to being verified. We cannot deny it, but it is disturbing in the sense of the conduct of the soldiers. It's in contravention of international treaties. It's in contravention of Geneva, a convention. This can actually be so serious that the International Court for Criminal Act can actually ask for investigation. It is in breach of laws that applies to armed conflict. So all conduct shown in that video stands in breach of conventions which we are signatory to.
Right, and could it go as far, Jasmine, especially if the people whose bodies are shown in this video being handled in this way by people purported to be members of the SADC troops, if those people especially are civilians, could we go as far as saying what's happened here is a war crime?
Exactly. That's what it has to be proven now that actually those were insurgents. Now, we're going to what is currently available. It is claimed that they were insurgents, they were armed, and that weapons were removed from them, but we do not know that as a fact. The investigation will have to be proved, have to actually provide proof thereof. But no matter, Tembekili, the laws on armed conflict clearly state when you have dead bodies after combat, there are certain rules, certain regulations that needs to be applied. Now, in theory, yes, it sounds perfect. This is a war battle. This is low-intensity conflict. Even if the mechanisms were not in place to remove the bodies, questions remain standing on how those bodies were actually dispersed of.
And it would also raise the question, would it not, around whether this is the first time that this has happened with bodies of either insurgents or any other people killed, presumably by the SADC forces.
And exactly. We do not get information from the battle area. So what we get is this video clip, and it raises these questions. We have seen at the beginning of the insurgency, 2018, 2021, Mozambican forces actually involved in human rights violations and how they treated those being captured. What we are seeing now is a glimpse, and now the question arises, what else is happening? Is this the normalization to peace in Cabo Delgado? I do not think so. Conduct like this is going to have serious consequences for Cabo Delgado.
Just on the consequences then, if indeed the SADC troops, including South African military officers who've been deployed to northern Mozambique, are found to have flouted the rules as per what's shown in this video, could that turn even the nearby communities against them who may have even been supportive upon deployment?
Someone prior to the video release already had a credibility crisis. We have seen the communities far more trust in the Rwanda security forces and for what they are doing. So the credibility of SANDF has been questioned, and I'm afraid, taking into consideration we're at scenario 5 for SANDF forces in terms of peace building, this video is simply going to add fuel to fire amongst people in Cabo Delgado on the conduct shown.
Is there anything that the various governments or SADC itself needs to be doing now while we wait for conclusive findings from the various investigations or the main investigation to tell us who was involved, who the dead people were, where the bodies came from, and why indeed that they were set alight?
In a statement released late this afternoon, SANDF made it clear that an investigation will be launched. But I want to add, Tembekile, the SANDF cannot distance itself from this incident under the SANDF umbrella as a reason. The SANDF has to accept its accountability. The responsibility might lie with SANDF for its investigation, but the SANDF is accountable for the conduct of the soldiers of its own forces. And herein lies the need for an investigation, the need for action and decisive action as to try to crisis management the consequences of what we are seeing in that video.
And what would be an appropriate sanction for these soldiers if indeed these were members of the SANDF? Is dismissal the only appropriate sanction?
That will depend on SANDF and internal procedures, and I don't want to go into that. I'm not an expert on the internal mechanisms and what actually should be a fair trial and judgment. But looking at the actions, one would expect that those soldiers will be taken out of Cabo Delgado with immediate effect, pending the investigation and the results of the investigation, followed by a military trial, and getting this matter conclusively finalized as quickly as possible.
Could the insurgents capitalize on this?
Yes, I think we need to understand that we're in a cookie pressure situation. The insurgents are not defeated. They have maintained the ability to move. They've maintained their ability to execute attacks. We've seen at the end of December where they actually attacked the Mozambican security forces itself in terms of accessing weapons. So I do not expect that there will be a revenge attack as we have seen in Pemba, Palma a few years back, but what we will see is a more resolute insurgent leadership wanting to take action and using the video for their own benefit in recruitment, in showing what they call they are up against.
And briefly, Jasmine, you're following the conflict in northern Mozambique closer than most of us have been doing in the last few years. Where do things stand at the moment? Does either side have the upper hand?
We are not in a war where there is going to be a clear-cut winner as we sit here today. For as long as the insurgents drive the momentum, for as long as they are recruiting, for as long as they are kidnapping young boys, for as long as they train these young boys, we're sitting with a generational problem. And the over-militarized emphasis on protecting the security corridor in Cabo Delgado will not deal with the problem. We need an alternative if we are serious about gaining a sustained solution. We are not near that point, irrespective statements on normalization.
Jasmine Opperman, security analyst, good to speak to you. Thank you.